I have a confession to make. I have a vice. You know this about me. I am a man of science, I am a man of safety, but I'm also a man who appreciates the finer things in life. And by finer things, I mean a glass of brown water, specifically bourbon. There is something about the ritual of it, the smell of the oak, the slight burn, the way it signals to my brain that the day is done. But here's the other side of that coin. I have never, not even once, tried cannabis. I know, I'm a square, I'm a safety guy, I'm a naval officer. It's just not in the cards for me. I have zero moral judgment against it. Honestly, if it works for you, Godspeed. But personally, I have no idea what it feels like. My idea of relaxing is a poured neat Woodford Reserve and maybe a little Mario Kart or Star Trek reruns. But apparently, I am becoming a dinosaur because according to a new article I found, the kids these days aren't reaching for a nightcap. They're reaching for a gummy or a vape or whatever it is they do now. The question is, are they doing it to party or are they doing it because they simply cannot sleep? It's an all new Prove It To Me. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Prove It To Me. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Law. If you are listening to this, I assume you are awake, or maybe you're listening to my soothing baritone voice to fall asleep. If that's the case, sweet dreams. And I hope I don't give you nightmares about p-values and confidence intervals. Today, we are doing another Study Finds episode. And this one popped up on my radar from a source that is near and dear to our hearts in the occupational safety and health world, Safety and Health magazine. Now, I love Safety and Health. They do great work keeping us informed. But sometimes the headlines are just a little bit too clean, a little bit too simple. Here's the article I found. The headline reads, "Young adults relying on cannabis as a sleep aid, study finds." It was published on December 24th, 2025. Merry Christmas to us, right? The summary in the magazine was pretty straightforward. It said that a team from the University of Michigan found that more than 1 out of 5 young adults use cannabis or alcohol to help fall asleep. It warns that this practice can backfire. It quotes the researchers saying, "There is a misconception that substance use can be helpful for sleep problems, but it can make things worse." And that's it. That's the article. Now, if you're me, you read that and go, "Okay, thanks, Mom. Drugs are bad, okay?" But I have questions. I have so many questions. First of all, how many young adults? Second, how much cannabis? Third, and this is the big one for me, are they using it because they want to get high and falling asleep as a side effect? Or are they using it specifically as medicine because they are staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m.? And what about the alcohol? The headline mentions alcohol, but then focused almost entirely on the weed. As a bourbon drinker, I need to know, am I part of the problem? So, as we do on this show, I didn't settle for the magazine summary. I went to the source. I tracked down the actual peer-reviewed paper. And let me tell you, the devil, or should I say the devil's lettuce, is in the details. The paper is titled "Cannabis and Alcohol Use to Initiate Sleep Among Young Adults." It was published in the JAMA Pediatrics. Now, pause for a second. JAMA Pediatrics, this is the Journal of the American Medical Association. This is a heavy hitter. This isn't a blog post. This is rigorous stuff. The lead author is Megan E. Patrick, PhD, from the Institute for Social Research at the University of Michigan. And who paid for this? The funding comes from the National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA. Now, put on your critical thinking caps. NIDA has a mission. Their mission is generally to study the abuse of drugs. So, are they looking for positive benefits of cannabis? Probably not. They are looking for harms. They are looking for addiction. That doesn't mean the data is wrong. University of Michigan is world class, but we have to understand the lens through which this data is being viewed. They aren't trying to help you optimize your sleep, they are trying to stop you from becoming dependent. So, where did this data come from? This is the part that geeks me out. They use data from the Monitoring the Future MTF panel study. If you aren't familiar with MTF, it is arguably the gold standard for drug trends in the United States. They have been surveying high school seniors since 1976, and they don't just survey them once, they follow up with them. They send them surveys every 2 years as they grow up. This particular study looked at young adults aged 19 to 30. The data was collected in 2022 and 2023. Now, I'm looking at the supplemental material here. I pulled the E figure because I wanted to see exactly who these people are. They started with a massive pool, but after they filtered for people who actually responded to the relevant survey form, the final analytic sample was 1,514 young adults for the cannabis analysis and 1,473 for the alcohol analysis. This is a nationally representative sample. That means they applied survey weights. They didn't just find 1,500 college kids in Ann Arbor. They adjusted the math to make sure this group looks like the entire United States population in terms of race, gender, and geography. So, when we talk about these numbers, we are talking about America. Here is what makes this study interesting to me. Usually, surveys just ask, did you smoke pot in the last 30 days? Yes or no. Or, did you drink alcohol? Yes or no. But that doesn't tell us intent. If I drink a beer at a baseball game, I'm not using it as a sleep aid. I'm using it because it's hot and I like beer. If I drink a whiskey at 11 p.m. because my brain won't shut off, that's different. That's self medication. So, Patrick and her team asked specific questions about reasons for use. They asked, in the last 12 months, have you used marijuana to help you to get to sleep? They also asked if they used it to relax or relieve tension. And then they did the same for alcohol. Have you used alcohol to help you get to sleep? Then they ran what we call multivariable logistic regression models. Basically, they put all the variables in a pot: gender, race, parental education, employment status, and stirred it up to see which factors actually predicted the use of these substances for sleep. They calculated adjusted odds ratio, AOR. If you're new to the show, an odds ratio is like a betting line. If the AOR is 1.0, there's no difference. If it's 2.0, you are twice as likely to do the thing. If it's 0.5, you are half as likely. So, let's look at what they found. Finding number one: prevalence. Among all young adults in the US, ages 19 to 30, 11.1% reported using cannabis to sleep in the past year. 7.2% reported using alcohol to sleep in the past year. Okay, 11%. That might not sound like a huge number, but think about your workplace. Think about your shift crew. If you have 100 young guys working the line, statistically, 11 of them are using weed to knock themselves out at night. But here's the kicker: they looked at people who were already users. If you used cannabis at all in the past year, 41.2% of you used it specifically to help you sleep. If you drank alcohol at all in the past year, only 8.6% of you used it to sleep. So, do you see the difference here? Alcohol is mostly recreational. People drink it to celebrate, to socialize, to pair with a steak. Cannabis? For nearly half the people using it, it is functional. It is a tool. It is a sleeping pill. Finding number two: frequency. This is where it gets concerning from a health perspective. They asked how often people used it for sleep. Among those who used cannabis for sleep, the majority used it on 20 or more occasions in the last year. In fact, people who used cannabis for sleep reported using cannabis in general significantly more often than those who just used it for fun. The adjusted odds ratio here was massive. If you reported using cannabis to relax or relieve tension, you were 11 times more likely, an AOR of 11.23, to also use it for sleep. Basically, if you are using weed to chill out, you are almost certainly using it to pass out. Now let's talk about alcohol. My fellow bourbon lovers, don't get too comfortable. The study found that people who used alcohol to sleep were also heavy users. If you used alcohol to sleep, you were associated with a higher number of drinks per occasion. You weren't just having a glass of wine, you were having a lot. But, and this is a big but, the association between relaxing and sleeping was much weaker for alcohol than for cannabis. People seem to differentiate more with booze. This is my party drink versus this is my nightcap. With cannabis, the lines are blurred. Relaxing and sleeping are almost the same activity. Okay, Matt. So the kids are smoking weed to sleep. Why do we care? It's legal in half the states. It's natural. It's just a plant, man. Well, let's put on our safety professional hats for a second. Number one, the physiology of sleep. We know, and the authors point this out, that while these substances might help you initiate sleep, fall asleep faster, they disrupt the architecture of sleep. Alcohol is notorious for this. It suppresses REM sleep. You pass out, but then you get the rebound effect halfway through the night. Your body metabolizes the alcohol, your sympathetic nervous system spikes, and you wake up sweating at 3 a.m. You get low quality sleep. Cannabis is a bit more complex, but chronic use can also suppress REM and lead to tolerance. So, you need more weed to get the same sleep. If our workforce is relying on these things, they aren't getting restorative sleep. They're just getting unconsciousness. There is a difference. Now, number two, the impairment question. This is the big one for me. If I drink a bourbon at 9 p.m., by 7 a.m., I am clinically sober. My liver has done its job. I can drive a forklift. But cannabis? We know THC is lipophilic. It stores in fat. It hangs around. But more importantly, if someone is using cannabis specifically to sleep, when are they dosing? Right before bed. That means the peak concentration is happening while they are asleep. But what is the residual effect in the morning? We call this stone over. If 11% of the workforce is dosing heavily right before bed, are they 100% alert for the morning safety briefing? Are their reaction times at 100%? We don't really know, and because federal law makes it so hard to study, thanks Schedule 1 status, we lack the hard data on next day impairment for chronic sleep users. Number three, the why is the real problem. The study found that people who use cannabis for sleep are also more likely to use it to cope with distress. This brings us to total worker health. Why are these young adults unable to sleep? Is it stress? Is it anxiety? Is it shift work disorder? Is it that they are working 3 gigs to pay rent? They are self-medicating a symptom. If we just ban the weed, zero tolerance, we aren't fixing the sleep problem. We're just taking away their crutch. And they might replace it with something worse, like benzodiazepines or opioids. Now, I can't let the authors off the hook completely. I have to find some flaws. It's my job. Critique number one, causality versus correlation. The study is cross-sectional in this analysis. It asks about the last 12 months. It can't tell us if cannabis caused the sleep problems. It could be that people with terrible insomnia seek out cannabis. Or it could be that people who smoke a lot of cannabis ruin their natural sleep cycle and then need the cannabis to sleep. It's the chicken and the egg. The authors acknowledge this. calling it reverse causality. But the headline, relying on cannabis, implies dependency, which the data suggests but doesn't strictly prove. Critique number 2, subjective measures. They asked, did you use it to help you sleep? They did not ask, did it work? We don't know if these people actually slept better. We just know they tried. Maybe they smoked, ate a bag of Doritos, and stayed up until 4 a.m. watching conspiracy theories on YouTube. The study doesn't verify the sleep outcome, only the intent. Now, critique number 3, the co-use factor. The e-figure shows a group of about 600 respondents who used both. The study found that people who use both alcohol and cannabis generally reported worse sleep outcomes than those who use just one. This is the cross-faded effect. If you are mixing depressants to knock yourself out, you are playing a dangerous chemical game with your brain. So, what do we do with this? If you are a safety manager, an HR director, or just a parent of a young adult, you need to understand the landscape. The landscape has shifted. For decades, the Nightcap was the socially acceptable sleep aid. Now, for the under 30 crowd, the joint cap, is that a word? I'm making it a word, is taking over. And the data says they aren't doing it to be rebels. They're doing it because they are tired. The authors conclude that healthcare providers should ask about substance use for sleep. I agree. But I'll take it a step further. Employers need to think about sleep health. If your employees are relying on substances, legal or otherwise, to function, that is a system failure. Are you working them 12-hour shifts with 8 hours off? Are you rotating them from days to nights every 2 weeks? If you are driving the demand for these sleep aids. You are the dealer. And on a personal note, to the young adults listening, or the old adults who think they're young, I get it. Sleep is hard. My brain runs 1,000,000 miles an hour. But take it from a guy who reads research for fun. Biological dependency is a trap. Whether it's the bourbon I love or the cannabis you love, if you need it to close your eyes, it's not a treat anymore. It's a treatment. And you should probably make sure that treatment is actually working and not just knocking you out. Now that's it for this study finds. I'm going to go pour myself a very small, very responsible glass of whiskey, and then I'm going to read a book until I fall asleep naturally, or until I pass out from boredom, whichever comes first. As always, if you have research that you want to share on the podcast, whether it's your own or just a really cool study you found, or some research you've been able to effectively put into practice, send me an email at contact@proveitpod.com. Until next time, I'm Dr. Matt Law. Thanks for listening to the Prove It To Me podcast. Take care and stay safe, everyone. Prove It To Me is produced by me, Matt Law. Original music by Wes London. You can find this podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Like what you've heard so far? Please like, subscribe, and follow wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Got questions about what we talked about or research that you want to share? Send an email to contact@proveitpod.com. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily represent the official position, opinion, or strategies of their employers or companies. Examples of research and data analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based on very limited, often single use case, and sometimes dated information. Assumptions made within this discussion about research and data analyses are not necessarily representative of the position of the host, the guests, or their employers or companies. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast. The presentation of the content by the guests does not necessarily constitute an active endorsement of the content by the host.